Starbucks employee has been fired by the corporation because of the incredibly abusive and aggressive way that he was behaving to a customer.
Don't ever call me transphobic, ever! You do not know me!
You're being transphobic, Karen. Now get out!
Call me transphobic.
You are transphobic. Now get out.
I want a refund.
You're not having one, do the police.
Then.
Hi, get out.
Absolutely.
You are trespassing now.
They've got cameras.
You are trespassing.
We've
Get
got
out.
cameras.
Get out.
This footage has been circulating around social media, and you can see the way that the employee is screaming, shrieking in this woman's face and telling her to get off the property, that she's trespassing. You can see that in return, this woman is shouting at him saying, "Don't call me a transphobic. I'm not a transphobic." And he is saying, "You misgendered me, Karen." Karen is an incredibly derogatory term for a woman who is perceived to be complaining. So it's quite interesting to note that while he is screaming about being so mortally offended by the fact that she misgendered him, he has absolutely no problem throwing out his own insults. Now, I am referring to the employer as a he for simplicity purposes. Now, this is the point that I want to make. I may be referring to the individual as a he. This does not mean that I am attempting to be derogatory towards this person or to insult this person. I think this is the case for many people. Not everybody is going to adhere to different types of pronouns that are really sprung up in the last few years. Not everybody is going to do that. And it seems that this was the case for this customer. Now, she may have called him a him entirely innocently, but for him to react in such a way where he became both verbally and physically abusive towards these customers, that's an absolute disgrace. And I think it highlights a wider point, that there are people in these minority factions, whether it's the transgender community, whether it's in regard to the race issues that are going on, where we saw, for example, a Bridgerton star who on TV turned around and said, "Isn't it a shame that the balcony was all white," when talking about the King's coronation? Pretty outrageous comment, and a pretty racist comment in itself. Now, we see this with certain individuals in the transgender community or supporters of theirs, where they seem to think it's acceptable to be violent or abusive to those who are not adhering to what they believe is the way forward. They believe that you need to call me by this pronoun, you need to refer to them as this, and if you don't, you can look forward to being assaulted. That's an absolute disgrace. That's not the way that we do things. That's not the way that things should be done. Not everyone is going to adhere to these pronouns. Not everyone should be made to adhere to these pronouns. You know, you have the freedom to express yourself however you want. You have the freedom to call yourself whatever you like. No one is disputing that. But not everyone has to do that as well. Not everybody has to call you exactly what you demand, exactly what you say. And you certainly have no right to be abusive or aggressive just because they don't. These types of lines, these types of boundaries have clearly not been implemented properly ever since this woke stuff kicked off a few years ago. This type of thing seems to be okay for certain people, where we see transgender activists or their supporters going after women's rights activists, or people like J.K. Rowling who are standing up for women's rights. And the intriguing thing is that these minority groups who now think that they can behave in this way, as much as they are trying to peddle the agenda that they are victims, in reality, by trying to shut everyone down and demand that they adhere to exactly what they want, they have become the oppressors. That is the reality of what has happened. That is the reality of what's happening. Now, we have seen that because Starbucks, who did do the right thing by sacking the employee, have decided to take this action, it shows that there are consequences to these types of actions, and so they should be. To paint everyone as a monster or claim that you're a victim and everyone's out to get you, all you're really doing is just show that you're the real tyrants. That's the way it looks now. That's how the way things are going. And I think that this incident in Starbucks demonstrates that pretty well.
Have you got what it takes to be a reasoned presenter? Well, send us a short clip of yourself to join@reasoned.uk and we might be seeing you on this very channel very soon indeed.